So let's start sharing my screen next. All right, so now everybody see my screen here. So if I go to file submission as a student, and then say if I pick up a class, okay, and then in the end, you'll see there's a lot of things, right? Like approve, attendance approve for which period, right? So it's just submit to the particular ones. So for example, if I submit that one, and then if I pick up a call, pick up something to submit, okay, and then it will be automatically be there, right? So that attendance proofs here, and for attendance proof is handled slightly different from assignments. So assignments after due date you cannot delete. Assignment you cannot delete, but before due date you can delete, resubmit. And then that for the attendance you can always delete it. So for example, if I copy the file name and then say delete, and the file should be deleted. Okay, so that's pretty easy to pretty user friendly, because for the proof, the basic point is just for me to check, sporadically how each student is doing. All right, did you get that?
When will the notes be due after class?
After class, you have 1 day to do it.
Oh, okay, so it can be submitted like that night.
Yeah, you can submit that night, submit that night, or submit next day morning. You can do it just in 1 day. Yeah. So as I said, I'm not going to check everyone's proof of attendance, but I will check occasionally some students. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about this? So this is something new. It's kind of like a change. We all are learning, right? We learn what works, what does not, and then we're trying to make changes, trying to be adaptive. All right. So this is something new. I don't think anybody else is doing it. Does any other professors doing it? I don't think so, right? So I think this is probably I'm not sure it's a good practice or not, but we'll see. Okay. So if you're sitting here, I know that you're doing that. You put your hands on, and then you're learning or not. But if you're not here, I have no way to check. Say, what are you doing? Okay. So you can show me that you did something in class. Is that clear? Okay. So for the time being, those attendance proof will not be counted toward anything. But if I occasionally found that some students did not do that, and then the student is showing that they're not on track, I may talk to you, okay? I may give you attention to the class. All right, yeah, question? Yeah, you can do it either way, does not matter. Yeah, doesn't matter. So if you're not online, if you feel that you can submit, that's fine too. Yeah. All right. I think it's a good practice. Maybe someday later you want to check your attendance. You put all attendance proof, attendance notes in one place. Maybe someday you want to download it back and check, say what you did, right? It's good. All right. So any other questions you may have, everyone? Okay. So if not, I'm going to open up the same project we did last week, not last week, last Monday. And then we'll start from that point now. So basically this week, our focus is on array and the loops. Basically, we'll just do for loop, okay? Do for loop. And then we're going to do while loop next class. And then we're going to do, so basically for next few weeks, we are primarily focused on how to write code efficiently. So basically, we are going to learn how to use loops. That's a very important concept to grasp. It's not an easy concept. Remember, you do need to pay attention, pay very close attention, and pay attention to your projects. Put your hands on to do all those projects. And then we are going to learn how to create functions. And that is also another difficult concept to grasp. Okay, so we'll do one by one. So first, I will do loop. So let's see. Yeah. The project. Okay, let me see which one. I think this was one. So I think we did like a fourth example. So I'm going to just zip that and put on equals just in case you need to start from that. Yeah, we can start with from that. Let me go back to professors. Fourth example. So that's a Monday. Which day was that? September, no, October, what? 10th? Huh? 5th? Yeah. October 5th example. Put on eCourse, and then you can download from there to start. Okay, so I'm going to start that. Okay, so we learned how to do for loop by using one example that is to calculate to do something like a sum from 1 to all the way to 50,000. Okay, and then we used use a for loop to do that. So what am I going to do next? I'm going to do something similar, but this time let's do multiplication. I will do factorial. Does anybody know what factorial is? So for example, 5 factorial will be equal to 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5, right? And 10 factorial will be 1 times 2 all the way to 10. Does it make sense? Okay, so now let's try to do factorial. So I'm going to go to the form, and then I'm going to create another button to do it. Okay. So button. So now let's say for the button text, I'm going to just say this is 20 factorial. 20 factorial. Okay. And then let's just say that is button factorial. Okay. So 20 factorial will be equal to 1 times 2 times 3 all the way to 20. And why some people may ask, why could not do just 500, 5,000 factorial, 50,000 factorial, why 20 factorial? Can somebody tell me why? Eventually, if you're trying to get any numbers bigger than 23, 24, your computer is going to crash because your computer cannot handle that huge integers. Okay, to do that, you have to use approximation. So let me see whether I will do approximation for this class or not. We'll see. Okay, if I have time and then we can do that. But for now, let's just say I want to do integer factorial of a very small integers. Okay, so let's say, first of all, we need to declare a result, which is integer, right? Okay. And then we are going to initialize the result variable. So here we are going to do multiplications. We are going to use the result multiply 1, and then use the same result multiply by 2, 3, 4, all the way to 20. So we should initialize multiplication result, anything that is about the multiplication, to 1. Okay? Unlike sum, when you do additions, you initialize to 0. Okay? You can think of that as a tip, learning just like a tip, programming tip. Okay? So there's no reason for that, but just that will make your life easier. So say result equals to 1. And now let's try and use a loop again. So for integer, okay, so you're going to have 3 parts. Okay, you can put that semicolon and the semicolon again, and then put 3 parts. The first part is going to be what is the first step number. So let's just say the first step number, since I'm going to multiply by 1, so I will say I equals to 1, the first step. And then the second one will say what will be the last step. Last step is I less than or equal to 20. Okay? And then how do you reach the last step from the first step? So I will say I plus plus, which means every time I increase I by 1. Okay? And now go to the next line and curly brackets. And then we just simply say result equals to result multiplied by I, semicolon. So this is how we do multiplication using this, do factorial using this, okay? All right, so finally, after you have the result, after this, all the steps are finished. So just imagine the first step. So what is the first step? First step will be result times 1, okay? Then I will be equals to 2, increased by 1, right? So then you do result multiplied by 2 again. So if I'm going to explain that step by step, this is going to happen. Okay, let's just say, use a whiteboard again. Okay, so let's start with a new one. So you will be doing something like this. So step one, I equals to 1, right? So your result was initially before that, you said result was 1, all right? So in step 1, you say result equals to result multiplied by 1. So that multiplied by I is 1. So you get a result, now result equals to 1, right? Result, so let's say this result. Okay, now step 2, I equals to 2. And now you have a result equals to result multiplied by 2. And now this result was 2, 1, right? So now this result will be equals to 2. Now let's do it again. I equals to 3. And then result equals to result multiplied by 3. So what is the result now? So original result was 2, but now you multiply by 3. So you get a 6. Make sense? So let's do one more step. I equals to 4. And they do the same thing. So result equals to result multiplied by 4. So what will be the result? So whatever all the result, which is 6, but now you multiply by 4, so you get a 24. Does it make sense? So that will continue all the way to well, to like step 20, which is I equals to 20. Okay? And then at that point, your result should be just 20 factorial, because you multiply by 1, 2, 3, all the way to 20. So the result should be factorial. Okay? And then do you do step 27, 21? No, because this is a condition to be checked. So this will only repeat, this instruction will only repeat until I is less than or equal to 20. After that, this loop will be finished. So in other words, these 3 lines of code, this is just one line code. This one line code will be expanded only 20 times. After that, this will be finished, and then you move on to the next line after the curly brackets, which will just say report the result. And now let's say the text box, I can just use same text box count dot text equals to result. All right. So of course you need to do conversion. You need to convert the number into the text. Okay. To string. All right, so that is how we do factorial. Now let's try that, okay? So if I put a factorial, then, whoa, what is this? This number is not right. So even 20 factorial is not allowed. So basically, the integers can have up to 2 billions. After 2 billions, that integer cannot be, the variable cannot hold numbers bigger than 2 billion, to around 2 billion, yeah. So what is this one? This is more than 2 billion, maybe? Yeah, this is more than 2 billion, actually. So this number, so even 20 factorial is not allowed. All right, that's interesting. All right, so we can even reduce that. So we can reduce this to, oh, by the way, instead of that, we can do something better. So we say instead of this result, integer can only be up to billion, right? So we can just use long integer. So this long, just change the integer to long integer. That will be fine. That will allow us to have a long integer. We'll have like 8 bytes of data. So let's try that. 20 factorial, yeah, that would be fine. That would be fine, yeah. So actually this is 20 factorial. I'm not sure how large you can go. Let's just change this to 50. I think that should be crash again. So that'll give you a wrong number again. So let's say 50 factorial. No, this is wrong, right? So give you negative numbers. That cannot be, okay? Factorial cannot be. So 50 is too large. Okay, so I don't know how large it should be, maybe 23. So when you're dealing with this kind of exponential multiplication of exponential numbers, 23 is okay. 23 seems to be okay. Okay, does everybody see that point? I'm using long integer instead of integer. Integer is 4 bytes, only hold the limited size of data, limited size of integers, but then long integer allow you to have a much larger size. Okay. All right. So we learned how to do sum and factorial. And now I'm going to give you, so this is actually, let's say, what do we change to? I think it's a 20, whatever number. This is a factorial. So maybe change it to factorial instead of just 20 factorial. Okay. All right, so next, I'm going to learn how to, suppose I have some kind of data. That data may be in the array, but then let's just say, how can we do calculations using that data? Okay, so again, it's going to be practicing arrays and the for loops. Okay, so for that, let's just create. So this is something, let's just create a button. Okay, let's create a new button to do it. So otherwise, I have to just use a whiteboard and write something which is just works on the table, but not here. So here I'm going to just do, let's say, button array compute. Okay, so use array. So have data in the array, and then we'll compute data in there. Okay, so this text, array compute. So this is array compute, this text. So let's just give a name accordingly. Oh. So let's just say btn array compute. Okay. So we can put this aside, and then we'll do something in here. Okay. So what we can do? So we can just create array first, initialize array, and then we will use the array to do calculations, and the result will be put inside this text box. We want to create something new here. You know what? Let me do this. I think it would be, instead of using the same text box, the same buttons, I will do something which will be easier for us to review. So what I'm going to do is I will create like a list box. And in the list box, I'm going to show the data in the array, and then we press this button to calculate, and the result will be displayed in text box. So I'm going to do a list box for that. Okay, so list box, which shows a list, okay? Shows a list. So let's just say I'm going to have a list like that. Okay, and given name, let's just say this is a list data, okay? And then I'm going to have a text box to show the result. So this is something new, right? So we use a list box to show a list. Let's see, text box. So for the text box, let's just give a name. Let's just say txt result. Okay. So let's see. Let me just do how do we design this? I'll do calculate, and then we'll put the result. How do we see where do we put it? So let's see, the result is here. It doesn't matter. So let's just put a label. So sometimes it takes a while to consider how you design your phone. So that's called a prototyping. It's of course a very important skill you're going to learn in this class. So let's put a label in here. Okay. So let's just say this is text, which is a result. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put the label in here, maybe. Okay. So anyway, so I'm going to press this button, we'll get a result, calculate it, display it in here. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to initialize array, and then I'm going to also try to use a random number generator to generate a large number of data in the array, and then I'm going to put data in here, put data in the list, okay? And then press this button, and then also will at the same time I show the result in here. Okay, so let's go to array calculate. First of all, let's create array holding data. So double square buttons, and then I just say values, okay, equals to. So for now, I'm going to just create some data in there. So let's just say 12.9, comma, and then 20.1, comma, and then 19.8, comma, and then you do, let's just do a few more. Okay, let's just say 11.8, comma, and 25.9. Okay, so suppose we have array will be just basically, so this is basically just initialize array to how many numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So initialize it right away. So this is equivalent to just declare values and new double and then 5, and then you put the values, do the initialization one by one. Do you remember what I'm talking about? So this is equivalent to something like this. So if you're going to say declare double, square, and then say values. Okay, I have the comment this line out. Okay, comment this line out, and then so let's try to do something equivalent. So then you basically say values 0 equals to 12.9 semicolon, and then values 1 square bracket that's equal to. Let me spell anything. Values 1 equals to 20.1. This is values is not correct. Something is wrong here. Did you see? Doesn't it say something wrong here? Let's see. Use of unsigned local variable. What is local unsigned variable? Local unsigned. So have double values. I don't see anything wrong there. You see? It bothers me here. So double, then square bracket values, and then value 0. Use of unsigned local variable values. What is that? Values here. Is this? There's no misspelling here, right? Is it misspelled? Same thing as the values here, right? Yeah. It's kind of strange. So let's say, so if you're trying to do that one by one, then you're just going to do something like this. And then say the next one will be 19.8, okay? So I'm going to skip this. Just say you can do that in 2 different ways, but this approach is kind of like a shortcut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to still using the first line, and then comment all other lines out. Comment all other lines out. So / star to begin, and then star / to end. So this will make all the lines in the middle to be commented out. Okay, so now we have array declared. Okay, so now I want to show the show this array in the list box. So this is what we do. So list, remember what this data, okay? We say dot data source equals to values, and do that, okay? All right, now let's see what we have done, okay? So let's say we create an array and then put data in the list. And now let's see the result, click. So now you have data displayed in here, right? So that's good. So now we are going to calculate the result. So what are the things we can do? So the first thing we want to do is, let's say I want a sum of this data. So we are going to use a variable to hold sum, so double sum. So we should initialize to 0, right? When you do sum, initialize to 0. And then we say for, okay, integer I equal to 0. We are using step index for the array index. So starting from 0, 1, 2, right? So we can use step index for that the same the array's subcomponents index. Okay. So I equals to 0, and then I less than what? What is total number in this array? So for that, you're going to use the values dot length. So that with the length will show you what is total number of items inside the list, inside the array. So for example, for now we have 5, right? So the length will be equal to 5. Just use the values, the name of the array dot length, and that will give you the total number of items. So I has to be, the maximum should be 4, right? Because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So counting from 0, and then maximum is 4. So that's why you say I less than that. Okay, it's not equal to. If you do equal to, your code is going to crash. Okay, because you're out of range. Your data values 5 is not in here. See that? Values square bracket 5 is not in this list. Okay, and then again we are going to increase by 1 every time. Okay, so we'll say sum equals to sum plus values I. Semicolon. So for I equals 0, that will values 0, so will be first one 12.9. If I equals 1, then you add 20.1 to it. And then I equals 2, you add this 19.8 to the sum. Okay? All right, so now let's say txt result. Text equals to the sum. Okay? Equals to sum. And now let's do conversion. Convert to oh, something wrong. So this time with a convert to string. Okay, so there's some kind of misspelling there maybe. I think this is a capital C. Okay, so convert to string, sum to string. This is capital T. Okay. All right, so this time you are getting numbers from this sum, okay, from this list. So now you can see the result again. Compute. Okay, this is 19.5, right? So that's easy. Now, if you have a sum, then you should be able to find the mean value to it, right? Can you find the mean value, average value? So basically just sum divided by what? The total numbers, right? Okay, so let's do the mean, okay? So let's just say double mean value will be equal to sum divided by the total number of numbers, which is values dot length again. Okay? So now you have a mean value. So now I can say, let's say I want to display the mean value in here. So instead of sum, I will display mean value. Okay. So that would be average of these numbers. Get that? Okay, so let's do it again. 18.1. All right. Okay, so let me pause for a second. Let's you to digest this code. So basically, this code is very simple at this point. We are given a list of data, list of values, put in the array. So initialize array, create array, initialize it. And then we display that in the list box. And then here is a code to calculate the sum of these numbers. Okay, and then we use the sum to divide. Now, let me tell you that for this particular case, for this loop, because we are talking about data in this list, in this array, we can use another kind of loop. It's also for loop, but it's called a for each loop. So we can use for each loop, for each item inside the loop, inside the list, something like that. So this, let me just comment this line out, okay, comment this. So this is a standard for loop. Okay. Standard for loop. So let me just comment here. Okay, so this is standard for loop. Okay. Now let's do for each loop. Kind of like a standard for loop. It's also dealing with, the things that are going to be repeated once. You have a number of steps to repeat, and you have repeat for each step. And then the number of steps is controlled by the array. Is controlled by the list. Okay, so this is the syntax. So we'll say for each. Okay, for each. Oh, hold on. Okay, so for each what? So in this time, you just say for each item, So each item is a double number, right? So this is how you do it. Is say for each double, and then say whatever x in the name of this list. So each values. Okay. And curly brackets, and then you do the addition. So this is a much kind of like simpler than for loop, right? So for loop using index, but here you are using for each item. So this x is just like a variable to represent every item in here in this list. Okay. So for each x in here, what do you do? Simple. Just say sum equals to sum plus x. So this is a second way to write for loop. If you know control the steps based on the item inside the list, based on items in that list. So in here you do not use like I or each step index. Instead you just use some kind of generic number item to represent each item inside the list, and the result should be same. So if you try to calculate that, the result should be same. Okay. So this is the for each loop, which is equivalent to this in this case. So for these two type of loops, you can use, you can do either one. But this generic one, of course, is more applicable. But this is only applicable to special case if you control the steps based on the items inside array or list. Okay, so here we have array to do that. All right, now we calculate the mean. So what am I going to do next? Let's say I will do multiplications, okay? I will do multiplications this time. So what I will do, I will comment these lines out, comment, and I comment all the way to here. Okay, so this is the for loop for each loop. And now let's say I want to multiply these numbers together. Multiply all these numbers together, okay? So let's use for each loop again. So to do multiplication, of course, you need to have a variable, initialize result variable to be product, right? So let's say the product. So initialize to what? 1, okay? you will initialize to 1 because you are doing multiplications. Now let's do for each loop again. For each, okay, same thing, say double x in values. And then you say product equals to product multiplied by x. Multiplied by x. So now you say what's the result, right? So you're going to have a number, all these numbers multiplied together. All these numbers, first number multiplied by 1, and the result is 12.9. And then you use that number, use that result multiplied by 20.1, 19.8, so on and so forth, right? So you're going to get this. You're going to get all the multiplications. Now let's show the result. So instead of using mean, let's just do result product, okay? All right, so let's do it again. So this is the multiplication result. Multiplication. Okay. Next, I am going to comment these lines out again. Comment these lines out again, and then I'm going to do something. It's not a multiplication, it's not addition. Instead, we are trying to find the minimum of these numbers or maximum of these numbers. So what is the minimum of these numbers? What is the maximum of these numbers? So if you have only 2 numbers, that's easy to compare. So which one is the maximum? I think you did in your exam, you did something like find the minimum, right? Just in 2 numbers. But you have 5 numbers, 6 numbers, or 5,000 numbers, or 50,000 numbers. How do you find the minimum or maximum? Are you going to compare each one individually? That will be inefficient. You cannot, you really cannot do it because there are an infinite number of comparisons. You cannot do that, right? So to handle this kind of problem, we need a solution strategy. Our solution strategy is called algorithm. Okay, some students, I don't know whether anybody has taken algorithm in computer science, and that is actually the most difficult course in computer science, so-called algorithm, which is trying to design a solution strategy to solve problems. Okay, so now we have a problem that is trying to find the minimum of these numbers. What is a solution strategy? Well, I have a solution strategy like this. I will put like first number into minimum. Put the first number into the minimum first, okay? And then I will just use a loop to compare each number with that minimum. If that number I pick is smaller than the existing minimum, I will swap it or make the new minimum to be the minimum in the for the entire thing, for the result. If not, I will skip that and go to the next item to make a comparison. Does it make sense? So let me try and explain that strategy in here. So solution strategy is actually most difficult subject. So I think it's worth pay attention. So here, suppose I have say 2 numbers, 3 numbers. Let's just use 3 numbers as example: 12.9, 20.8, and 11.9. Okay, something like that. Okay. So first, I will put say minimum equals to the first number, 12.9. All right, and then I compare that the minimum with so we can start with first one. So with 12.9 first. So in this case, they are the same thing. So the minimum will be still 12.9. So there's no need to change. Okay. And then I'm going to compare minimum with second item, which is 20.8. Okay, so existing minimum 12.9 is smaller than that, so there's no change. So minimum is still 12.9, so still keep that. And now I'm going to compare the minimum with 11.9. With 11.9. So now you have a case that the existing minimum is bigger than this one, so therefore you swap this one, so you can change the minimum to 11.9. Okay, so that continue. So it does not matter how many numbers you have. If you continue that, then every time you just need to make one comparison with one item inside the list. Okay, does everybody understand this algorithm? Okay, so as a matter of fact, in some other schools, for example, Ohio State, if you go to Ohio State MIS, they do have a course called algorithm. You have to take it from computer science. It is a required course for everybody to take. But here we do not require you to take that course. Is because it's not easy. It's difficult. Okay. However, you should realize that this algorithm is important. It's just a solution strategy. So solution strategy that is very important for programmers. Okay. All right. So with that strategy, with that solution strategy, now we can do implementation. So we'll just say trying to find the minimum of these numbers. Okay. So let's just do that. So we'll comment this line out, and then first of all declare a variable double, say mean, and then I will initialize to the first item in the list. So values 0. Initialize that. Okay, so this is also another tip. Initialize to the first item for max or min. So if you're trying to find a max or min, just initialize to the first item. Okay. And now we are using for loop again. So this time let's use for each again. So for each double x in values. Okay. Curly brackets. Okay. So now we'll do, okay. So we'll say for each item, if x is smaller than mean, smaller than existing mean, then we will change the mean to the x, make the x to be mean. So now you see that so without using so many if else, you have very simple way to solve that huge analytical problems, right? So this is analytics. So we talk about data analytics. You're trying to handle a huge amount of data, okay? Very efficiently, very fastly. So basically, this is the simple way to handle, say, if you're trying to find a max or mean, or find some kind of descriptive statistics. So this simple way. So after this, then this mean is ready for you to report. Okay. All right, so if you want to see the result, see the result. Okay, let's say every calculation, the result is 11.8. I think that should be minimum, right? Yeah, that is. Okay. So if I ask you to do maximum, it should be very similar, right? So you initialize to the first one, and then if any number bigger than max, then you use that bigger number as new max. Okay, so the result should be very similar to that. Okay, so at this point, we try to do something more meaningful. So here we are given this a list, right? We are given this list. So now let's try to guess. Say, suppose the list is getting from like a data file, or we do not have data file. We're going to process data file later, but not today. So let's say I want to generate these numbers. Let's say I want to generate not just these 5 numbers. I will generate several thousand numbers or 50,000 numbers. Okay, you have to run a number to do it. Okay, so I'm going to comment this line out. Okay, so I will declare double square bracket values. So this time, let's say I want to generate a number, how many? Let's just say double 50,000. That's huge numbers, right? 50,000. Is it 50,000? Yeah. Square bracket, semicolon. Okay. So how do we generate those numbers? Let's just use random number generator to do it. Okay, so random, and then say my generator equals to new random. Okay. All right. So this time I'm going to generate random numbers, which is between 0 to 1 by default. So I am going to just use next double. So then we're going to use a for loop again. For, okay, integer I equal to 0 and I less than 49,999. Like that, okay? So make sure that is in total you have 50,000. And then I plus plus. Okay, so I'm going to use loop to generate that. So I will say values I is equal to my generator dot next double. You see next double here. So that will give you numbers between 0 and 1, like that. Okay. Okay, and then this. So now you in the array of these values. Now you should have this 50,000 numbers in there. All the odd numbers is between 0 to 1. Okay, or number between 0 and 1. So now with those numbers, you can do the sums, you can do multiplications, you can do minimum, maximums. So let's just use minimum, maximum again. So we're still doing maximum, minimum here, right? So let's say what is the minimum of those random numbers. Are you ready? So only thing we did is we use a random number generator to generate one number for each item inside the values. This is an array which has 50,000 sub-memory blocks. And now each sub-block will have a number, which is done by this random number generator. It's filled by random number generator. Okay, press start. And then let's see the result. Okay, so that's a huge list, right? Huge list. And what's the minimum? Which is 0. For some reason, the 0 is actually not very easy to find. Because if you find a number between 0 to 1, and this 0 is like a very real numbers. So let's do it again. Okay, so still 0. Why? Is always 0 is in the list? Should not be 0 in the list. So let me do something a little bit different. So instead of that, let's just say I want to multiply by 100. So that will get some numbers bigger than that. Okay. Bigger than between like 0 to 100, something like that. Okay. So let's do it again. I don't know why we get all zeros all the time.
Is it because you start I at 0?
I is 0 just for the index for the first item. This is no, it's not because of that. 49,999, that's the last number. So the last number is giving you something which is 0 for some reason. Strange. Okay, so anyway, now let's comment this line out. Comment these lines out, and let's do means. Okay, comment this line out. So instead of minimum, let's do mean value. So mean value was here, right? So we'll do, where's the mean? Sum, we already have sum here, so let's just do mean here. Sum, and then let's say mean here. Okay, so let's try use this loop to find the mean value. So here we change to mean value, which is average value. All right, and let's do it again. Okay, so now this is the mean value, 50 something. Okay. So you have heard about the simulation, right? Simulation, this is simulation. This is assuming that data is generated by random number generators, and these numbers are generated kind of following some kind of a pattern or distribution. And then you use that simulated data to do calculations. So simulation is very, very useful. For example, you can use simulation to simulate, say, For example, for typical store, how many cache registers you should open based on the arrival or patterns of customers, right? You can also use simulation to do spying. For example, trying to detect some kind of a rundown message which has to be encrypted and say what is the original message. So without a key, of course, you cannot find what is the original message, right? However, you may be able to use simulation approach to detect what was original message without a key. Okay, so that simulation, this is kind of a simple simulation thing. So we are assuming that the numbers are generated according to some kind of pattern, and then we use that some random number to do calculations here. Okay, so let's see, how much time do I have? 20 minutes? Okay. So in the last 20 minutes, we'll be still doing array and loop, but this time I'm going to do text, going to handle text, okay? All right, so let's see whether I have enough forms to do that. Hold on, let me see. This is, so I'm not going to use the same button again, so let's just do something new button. So this time I will do, let's create a text box and also list box. So I will use a list box to show the part of a text, and then use a text box for you to type some kind of message or text, okay? So I would do it here. So I'm going to create a text box first. Okay. And then let's just create that text box. Give a name, let's say call that is txt message. Okay, txt message. As a matter of fact, for text box, you can also make it a multi-lined. I think there's a property you can change called a multi-lined. Where is it? Multi-line, right here. Okay, by default it's false. Okay, so let's say I can have a multi-line text. So change it to true. Do you see what I did? So for the text box property, just change to multi-lined, and now you can extend that to multiple lines. Okay, create a bigger text box. Okay, so let's give a name for that. Let's already have a name for that. Okay, so I'm going to put like a label in here, say message. Okay, so let's just do that. Okay, so for text, change to message. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is for the message, for this whole message, I'm going to learn how to split that message into parts. Okay. So I'm going to create a button, and then for the parts, I'm going to display that inside the list box. Okay, so let's do that same thing. So put the button here. Okay, so button. So let's just say the text button is split. And then button name is btn split. Okay. And then I'm going to create a list box for that to show the parts that we split it. List box here. So I'm going to create the list box down here. And let's give a name for that. You say that is list. What is the parse? Okay, parse. Okay. Okay. First, I'm going to show something simpler, which is really not related to split. So when I type something here, I want to change it to all small case or uppercase, okay? Or I want to take certain parts of the certain parts, just the certain substrings, subparts out of the text, and I will display inside the same message box, okay? And then we do splitting, okay? So we'll do two kinds of splitting. I can split into each individual characters. I can also split based on, so for example, say I want to split by commas or by space, okay? So I do two kinds of splitting after that. So first I, let me see, let's just create another button to do that. So because I'm not going to split this, going to use this split button. So create another button, just arbitrary button. Okay, so this button, just do something, okay? Just say button, something, okay? So what is called, what is doing this is text processor, something like that, okay? Text processor. So what are we trying to do? First of all, let's say if I type something here, I want to change all to capital case. So to do that, first of all, declare a variable. Okay, so that's called message, right? And then I'm going to get data from the text box. So message, MSG equals to txt message dot text. So we get the result. And now I'm going to change everything to uppercase. So to do that, you just place a msg.toUpper. That is to uppercase, okay? Uppercase. And that, I'm going to use that to replace the existing message. So just say msg equals to msg capital, to uppercase. Make sense? So now let's say we have a message box, message already showing that is all capitalized. So now let's try to display that back to the text box. So text equals to msg. Okay, so everything will be capitalized. So same thing, if you do lower to lower, then change it to lowercase. That's also simple, right? So let's try to say the result. Okay, so if I type anything here, I love you. Okay, so let's just do that. And then text processor, then you change it to uppercase. All right, so simple, right? So if you have a long message, then everything will be changed. Okay, anybody has questions about this? So this is how to use toUpper. To lower is the same thing, okay? And now let's say I want to take a certain part from the message. Okay, so I'm going to just take comment this line out. Okay, so after that variable, I'm going to say msg equals to msg, and then this time I will take a substring. Okay, substring will take two parameters. One is what is the beginning position, from where you start to take subtext, substrings. So let's say I want to start from number 3 letter. That's 2, right? 0, 1, 2. So the first letter will be position 1, second letter will be position 1, and then 2, and so the 2 will be third letter. Now let's say I want to take in total 5 characters. So that is taking only 5 letters starting from third position. And now let's see what is happening with that text, okay, with that message. Okay. So substring that allow you to take part of the text. So let's do it again. So I love you, Mary. Okay. So now let's see text processor. Just only that part is taken. See that? All right. So we have what else we have? So there's another one which is actually if you have a white space at the beginning or end, you can remove them. So we can do that just using another function called a trim. So let's say msg equals to msg.trim. So that way, basically just remove white spaces from the beginning of text and end of text. Okay, so let's just try that. So in case somebody type something but leave space in the beginning or end, you can take those off. So let's take some space off here. Okay, and I love you. Okay, something like that. Okay, and then have some white space here. So after you press, you trim it, and then this white space will be gone. and the end part white space will be gone too. So now you see that there's no white spaces in the text. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put that aside, and now let's actually do real job. So first, I'm going to split that into characters. Input text into character split. Okay. Are you following me? So I'm going to do a split function, which is we are going to use array. So first of all, you have text which have many characters. So you're going to create an array to hold those parts. Okay. So array, okay, char, that's array, okay? And then you can make that equal to, say, for example, so we still need a variable called message. Okay, we do not have that yet, so we have to declare that here. Okay, so let's say stream message equals to txt message.text. Okay, so we're going to get text from text box and put into this variable. Only after you put in the variable, then you can process it. Okay. So now let's process it. So first, I'm going to split my msg.to char array. So that basically is very simple. So basically you will split using this function, using to char array to split the text into individual characters. Remember, text was text, okay, was inside double quotes, but char is inside a single quote, is a special kind of data. So you have to use this one to create an array to receive the parse, okay? And after that, let's display the result. So lst parse dot data source equals to parse. There we go. Okay. So just simply 3 lines of code in this case. Let's run it. So now let's type something here so we can actually copy anything. So I love you, Mary. Okay, so let's just type the sentence and the split. There we go. So you have many characters split. So including period and what is this? This comma? Okay, so the space. All of them are characters, right? So they are split into all individual characters like that. So the to char array, that's a function which allows you to split the text into individual characters. So now you can process these characters, right? So for example, how many of them are empties, like space? Okay, how many of them are eyes, right? So you can process that, right? Okay, so next, I'm going to do split the text based on, for example, like a period or comma or some other symbols. Okay, so this time I'm going to comment this line out, and I'll do split in different way. So this time I'm going to split into parts. The part of the text will be still text, so I'm going to create an array to do that, also to hold result. Okay, so the parse. This time it's not the individual characters, but actually individual text. Okay, parse. Okay, do that, and then we say parse equals to the message that split. Use a split function. Split function. So what do you split? How do you split? So I'm going to use one character, say for example, single quote to split, or you can use some other characters like space to split. So if you do space, there's empty space like that, okay? So empty space. Oh. So if you do empty space, just that. So empty space, you can also use space to split. But let's just use a comma. Just make sure it's one single character, okay? And a single inside a single quote, okay? And then this parse will be individual text. So then we don't need to change the last line of code. It's basically just all these parts will be split into individual parts inside the text. And so basically, separated by commas, and then we can have those parts displayed inside of this box again. All right, so basically this is how to split based on certain symbols inside the text. Okay, so now let's try that. So now let's say I want to try to do something like a US address, right? So 529 South Broadway, Broadway, and then Akron, Ohio, 44139, And then let's say this is USA. Okay, so this is typical for US address, and then let's split. So we are going to split it by commas, right? Split by comma. So there we go. So we have split into those many parts. Make sense? All right. So if you want to split it by space, we can try that too. So let's just do, instead of a comma, let's just split it by space, okay? Just make sure it's one space, okay? No, not two space, one space inside, single quote. So just space character, empty space character. So then all the words will be split, right? So if, for example, if I say, I love you, Mary, something like that. So it will be going to split into many words, okay? Of course, you have a comma in here, so somehow you have to handle those kind of special situations in order to get individual words. All right, so I think now we come to the conclusion. I think, let me check, see whether I have everything finished. I think we did. So loop, for loop, rundown generators, we did that. Find the mean, okay, we did all that. Functions, process, to upper, to substring, trim, split, length, we did everything. Okay, so we are done. So you can take, we have a few more minutes, and then you take a look at your homework to see whether you have any questions. Take a look at your week 6.
Can you show off your random number generator in the array compute click?
Okay, yes, which one you're talking about? This one?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So basically, you create an array, and then you initialize the array using random numbers. Okay, take a look at your homework question. So you have 2 questions this time. One question is to write up, just basically you're going to write on a piece of paper and then take a screenshot and give the screenshot to me, or just upload that to like a Word document to eCourse. And the second question is a project. You need to do the project. Okay, small game again, I think. Create an array of 50 hidden slots, each holding the name of one secret US state. Then press a button to randomly pick in 2 slots. Okay, if the names of two states you pick start with the same alphabetical letter, such as Ohio, Oregon, then you win $10. Otherwise, you lose $5. Okay. Does anybody have questions about this? Hands-on questions.
I have a different question.
Okay.
I entered late. Can I check attendance, or am I considered absent?
So you still can check attendance.
Okay. Can I have the password then?
Password is array, A-R-R-A-Y.
You said A-R?
Array, A-R-R-A-Y.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about your homework? So you generate like a 50, the create array to hold 50 states, okay? So you probably have to do that in like some kind of like as a global variable. So each one will hold a state name, okay? And then you generate 2 numbers between 0 to like 49. And then if you the numbers you pick, 2 numbers, the name are in those 2 slots, start with same letter, the first letter are the same, then you win $10. Otherwise, you lose $5. Does that make sense? Okay. So you need to use array, use random number generators, and use if else, right? Okay. All right. Nobody has questions? Don't be shy to ask questions, okay? If you have any questions, you need to let me know. Otherwise, assuming that everybody understands.
So attendance proof you want us to submit.
Yeah,
by
you can
next-
submit your project or submit your notes, just, yeah. So for example, today we did the projects, right? Just
So do I
zip that,
submit the project or
zip,
just a
yeah, zip
screenshot?
that as the way you submit homework and then submit to attendance proof. So today is not optional. All right,
I only see 10:05 in there.
10:05. No, today there's no attendance. That should be there. Let me see. Huh? No, it should be there. Let me check. Maybe, let me see. Or maybe, let me check. Maybe that's the case. So it means only after the class was over. Huh? So let's see. So let's see if I do down the student network. And then indeed, there's no today's attendance yet. Okay. So just wait for a few more minutes. I think it should show up. So I'm going to change that so that in the future this will be visible during the class time.
All right.
Okay.
And then, like, do you want our notes in a separate thing, or do you just need the project?
You can upload the multiple files. Does not matter.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you can put everything into one zip file. That's fine too. All right. All right. So let me stop recording.